Good morning, y'all. This is a video I think I wanted to do like a day or two ago and I got distracted. But I wanted to explain transmutation, or the practice of, not the concept, but the practice of transmuting like emotional content to the mental stage, which then in the brain and the mind, it's physically changing chemicals. And I want to talk about different ways on how to do that practically in your own daily life. So they say when there's like a confrontation, or to me I would call it like a disruption in the environment, a disruption in the immediate ecosystem. There's been some disharmony. You would describe it, I'm sure. Others would have described it as like a conflict situation, a confrontation. But there's disharmony now in the immediate ecosystem. And if you recall in a past video, I said I don't really separate self-awareness from situational awareness, because myself is always in a situation, and it doesn't have to be kinetic or confrontational, but I can't separate my self-awareness from my environment, because I'm in it. I'm part of it. This isn't something separated from me. So in a confrontation or in a disharmonious situation, there's fight, there's flight, and there's freeze. And because law enforcement has a monopoly on violence, and fast food restaurants make it very accessible. Here's your cheeseburger. You didn't have to kill the cow or something. And Americans generally, it's more common in a situation like that to freeze. And I learned at a very young age in my childhood, in these situations, that when I felt fear, if I laughed, that action of laughing, so my emotional content is immediate, and it's not immediate, and I'll get to that momentarily, but I want to finish this thought. That emotional content of fear of uncertainty, fear of the unknown. What could happen? What do they have? What are they gonna do? Like, what's going on actually? Like, if it's surprise, but it's generally not that. I'll get to that in a moment. But that emotional content of like fear, you're not used to this, whatever it is, it's sudden. So that fear generally causes Americans to freeze in a situation like that. But the other two options are fight or flee. And some people have such a strong survival instinct, man, fleeing just comes natural, bro. Like, this ain't new to them, and they're gone. They're out. Peace. I'll come back when there's harmony's been restored to whatever immediate environment that is. But some people, fleeing comes very natural, and that's it. But the laughter releases chemicals in my brain that eliminate the freeze option. So now I have two other options in that immediate situation, is fight or flee. Both require blood pumping to your limbs. So that means less is going to go on up here now. We're in a situation where less blood flow is going to your brain and more is going to your limbs for action. You're either running or you're fighting. What I found is, in the way that laughter, so in whatever situation I'm in, immediately you're going to hear me laugh. And if it's inappropriate to the situation, what that is if it's appropriate to the situation, like I'm watching a comedy, or I'm listening to a comedian or something, if it's natural to the situation, okay. But if you hear me laugh in an inappropriate situation, what I'm doing is I'm eliminating that freeze that comes with fear or surprise with laughter. So now I'm free. I'm either walking away in the next few moments, or I'm not. If I walk away, I am still connected to that immediate situation. Okay, me walking away doesn't change whatever situation I was just in. So I'm still aware of quick footsteps coming up behind me. I'm still aware of everything they're saying as I'm walking away, or whatever's taking place. The gunshots from some shooting a block ahead. Like, I'm still paying attention to what's around me as I'm walking away, but I'm slowly turning that fear as I'm walking away. It becomes like a controlled rage, because now I'm transferring those chemicals of fear into like action, something that can make me take action, like anger. So there's a controlled escalation going on in my brain and the chemicals of, once I laugh, okay, I can walk away. And even if I walk away, I'm slowly building a controlled rage, because if it does pursue or escalate, I'm still aware of that situation and I can react in real time, which is where I want to get to in the next part, because the other option is just fight. So I'm not going to walk away. So what you're going to see is me flipping a switch from laughing inappropriately to the situation I found myself in, to now there's a controlled rage. I flip the switch now, and now it's up to you. Now I got to play the escalation game, because as I mentioned a little bit ago, police have a monopoly on violence. So now there's the escalation game, and I have to be directly, like eye contact, directly involved in the situation, part of it, for me to get away or to not be harmed or whatever. If that is the decision I've made, now I got to play an escalation game of how quickly I turn that dial into anger and rage, because now I already know, like, this is about to get kinetic, it's about to get intimate, and I'm directly involved, I'm directly connected. And that doesn't have to be a person, it could be a natural event occurring, whatever it is. Those are the fight, flight, and freeze, and that's how you can transmute chemicals in the brain and emotional content to chemicals in the brain that actually facilitate the action of either fighting or fleeing, either engaging that situation or removing yourself from it cautiously while you're still immediately in it. So now I want to talk about that acting in real time. Now, biologically, by the time light hits our eyes, and there's an inversion going on, like within our eyes, where we see things like flipped around actually, but like there is there are calculations going on when the light hits the lens of your eyes and you perceive something, you see something happening, you're experiencing something perceptually. There is a crazy calculation going on to your brain to interpret what you are perceiving, what you are seeing. So already the time it takes to flip around and then process in your brain, you're already behind the curve, man. Something's happening, and this is taking the time to process and compute what you're perceiving. So you're already behind the curve, even if it's a microseconds, you are behind the curve already in what's the situation going on. And I realized this at some point. I was in college, I was a young man at that point, and it was about me developing my reflexes, like my short muscle fibers, and how quickly my reflexes, how quickly I can coordinate my body into an attack or a motion, right? I was studying Bruce Lee's Tao Jeet Kune Do book, and just really dissecting it at the time. And so like muscle isolation techniques, and just like, so contradicting muscles don't slow them down. And these are ways to increase speed, because you got to think power is mass times acceleration. So if I'm not the powerhouse in the equation, I'm at a disadvantage unless I can create the acceleration, which also plays into reflexes. You have to train yourself to react quickly, not just in the physical movement, but in the processing of what's happening. And so when I'm talking about transmuting these things, we're doing it in a way where you eliminate having to think about what to do, because you're already engaged. It's just a question of how far behind the curve are you. So the closer you can get, the closer I can get, the closer we can get to reacting in real time, which means increasing your reflexes and your ability to process a sudden situation. That's important. That means you're now closer to reacting in real time, which to the outsider who's taking the time to process this and it hasn't been paying attention, giving attention and energy and training to these things to heighten your reflexes, to increase the speed, the acceleration of motion of your body. To someone outside who hasn't done that, it may look like you're moving faster than they are. It may look like you're surprising them, and they usually are surprised when you act in real time, because you're not frozen under that element of surprise type thing. So it usually surprises them, and so it appears to outsiders like you're moving super fast, or you even move first, when Jeet Kune Do, Bruce Lee, the way of the intercepting fist, what you're really doing is you're reacting to something that's already ahead of the curve in action, and you have to process what's happening and react. You're already behind the curve. So the closer you can act in real time, of course it's going to be perceived as almost like you moving. You know, if I hit the guy before he threw a punch at me, but if I can hit him before that punch lands on me, it's going to look like I moved first, and I didn't. But here's the thing, man. Like, that's the importance. It gives you an edge in a situation where you're already behind. You're already at a disadvantage. Action is already happening, and now you have to go through the whole thing. So the closer you get to real time, so that's what I say when I say my self-awareness. I do not disconnect it from my situational awareness, because I'm in the situation. Like, I have to be with it. So it's really not a surprise when it's happening, and I've been slowly, or in a controlled manner, it doesn't have to be slowly, but in a controlled manner, I'm already made up my mind. I'm disconnecting from this, or I'm engaging in this, and whatever's happening, but I'm not frozen. So already I know I can act one way or another. So to me, this isn't like a surprise. You know, the guy running up to sucker punch me as I turn to walk away. It's not a surprise when I'm listening and hearing how quickly those running footsteps behind me are coming, or if all the shit talk he's doing behind me is fading or getting louder. That tells me. So I'm not surprised when he runs up to do the sucker punch, which already frees me to turn around and act. You see what I'm saying? In real time, not at a disadvantage. I hope you understand, because I know I'm connecting emotional content, which is not very well understood in Western science, as more than chemicals, but I'm trying to connect in a practical way for you, using my like examples, how I perform or use the, you know, between emotional content, the processing and the release of the chemicals to then empower the body. You know, so I hope I connected those in a good way for you, or in a way that connected. I hope I transmitted what I intended to you as I intended. We're under 15 minutes. Cool. I gotta go take a shower. Yeah.